Is this the dagger?
G'day guys, JB here, and Game 3 of the 2026 NBA Finals is in the books, and as they say, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a series. The New York Knicks going down at home in their first home finals game since Game 5 of 1999, going down to the San Antonio Spurs and forcing this series into a very interesting predicament with the home team not winning a game through the first three contests of the series. The San Antonio Spurs getting the job done, weathering the storm, and showing exactly what they were able to do against the Oklahoma City Thunder, and just show that, age and experience, while it might be against them, it doesn't define them, and that's exactly what happened here in this game. They put an end to the run of the Knicks, which was one of the more unprecedented playoff runs in history as far as consecutive wins is concerned. But the series, while it is back alive, is far from over. It'll be very interesting to see exactly how things pan out in Game 4. But let's get into it. Let's get into my review for Game 3 of the 2026 NBA Finals. And as I mentioned before, the Spurs beating the Knicks, taking Game 3. Final score 115 to 111. Player of the game in this one. He's been their divine factor through all of the series. Crucial turnover in Game 2. Missed the potential game winner, but managed to silence a lot of critics in this one and drop a 30-point, 5-rebound, 5-assist game. The second youngest player in finals history behind Magic Johnson to do so, and steady the ship for his team. Player of the game, Victor Wembanyama, really split his scoring, set the tone early, was able to compose himself in the fourth, and really helped set the tone for his team and the victory. 32 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, and 3 blocks on just 1 turnover, and turned around the efficiency in his scoring as well. Only shooting 40% in the series, turned that around. 61.1 from the field in this game, 50% from deep, 88.9 from the free throw line. Very much putting things on his back, helping him out as well. Double-digit scorers from the remaining 5 starters, including 23 from Stephon Castle and 13 from Dylan Harper. He's been a real spark for this team as well. And you have a nice rounded performance there for the Spurs. As I mentioned, Castle, 23 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, getting it done, 8 of 14 shooting, 12 points apiece to De'Aaron Fox and Julian Champagnie. 8 assists there for Fox to go with a steal and 2 block shots. Meanwhile, for Champagnie, it was 12 points, 1 rebound, 3 assists, 4 of 9 shooting there for him. De'Aaron Fox, 4 of 14 shooting. Certainly not something to be enjoying, but certainly something he was able to lift upon. 11 to Devin Vassell, along with 4 rebounds there, 3 of 4 shooting for him. And Dylan Harper bringing the energy from the bench. 13 points to go with 9 rebounds, 4 assists. He has been a crucial factor for the Spurs team all year. I thought he should have been 6th man of the year, nonetheless didn't win it, but had a nice game here. For the other side of things for New York, I actually think that we're going to start changing a bit of a conversation here around Finals MVP. I thought Karl-Anthony Towns was going to be that. Today, a different story. Only the 11 points, 8 rebounds and 1 assist. 3 steals, 2 blocks, having a nice game, but 40% shooting there, not going to help the team. Jalen Brunson led the way for the Knicks. 32 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 11 of 25 shooting for him. And OG Anunoby is the guy I think that's starting to really turn the cogs here for the Knicks. 28 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 block shots, 9 of 13 shooting. You can make a genuine case that if the Knicks were to win this series, OG Anunoby consistently over the first 3 games has been the man. Josh Hart, 16 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 6 of 10 shooting for him. Mikal Bridges, a quiet game for him, only the 2 points. His worst playoff game since the very start of the Atlanta series. And then you had 10 points as well to Jordan Clarkson off the bench, 4 of 7 shooting. For the Spurs, they now appear to be able to control the tempo of any given playoff series. It did look like it may have been something they were able to just do against Oklahoma City, but we've seen it multiple times right now in this series against New York, where, in that first game, the Knicks got back into contention. The Spurs were able to battle back in and get control of the game until they slipped up there in the final term. Second game, the same. Through that first punch, fight back and a steady in the second term by New York, before the Spurs had what I think at this stage was their best quarter of basketball in the fourth quarter of Game 2. Of course, a couple of slip-ups, just costing them there in the second game. But in this game here, again, strong start the first term, gave up a solid lead in the second term, were able to fight back, bring things back to their control in the third, and hold on to win the game in the fourth. Again, I just think right now they're slowly growing in each game. They're learning to control that tempo. I mentioned it before in the box score there, but all of their starters and key role players contributed, and that's exactly what they're going to need moving forward. It has been sporadic and inconsistent amongst some of their players, but if they're going to deliver this on the road and get this series back to 2-2, it's anyone's ball game heading back to San Antonio. Now, I do say this knowing that being 3-1 versus 3-0 in a series is almost the same thing beyond one series in finals history. But 2-2, that's a different question. Fighting back from 2-0 down, also a question. So we'll see exactly how that unfolds for them. And again, you can argue that all three games have actually played out the same way for the Spurs. They throw the first punch early, New York control the core of the game, and then towards the end the Spurs have a bit of a run, or there's a slip-up, or tend to play their best game in the part of the game in the fourth quarter. It's exactly what happened here, except the Spurs able to maintain their composure and get it done in Madison Square Garden. We'll go back on a game-by-game breakdown, a quarter-by-quarter breakdown. And again, that big punch by the Spurs in the first quarter. 60.9% shooting from the field, 57.1% shooting from deep. And they had 33 points on the board compared to the New York Knicks, who had 22, shooting just over 40% from the field, 30%, less than 30% from deep. And everything else essentially controlling the way there for the Spurs. They had 11 assists on 14 makes. They led the rebound department there. Defensively, it was much of a muchness as far as counting stats were concerned, but overall, it was really a San Antonio quarter. 9 early first quarter points to Victor Wembanyama with some big dunks and a couple of block shots, really setting the tone early. Nice assistance there from Stephon Castle. Again, he really helped set the tone. And Dylan Harper coming in, chipping in where he could as well. On the other side of things for New York, Josh Hart setting the tone early with a couple of big threes. You weren't getting much out of Karl-Anthony Towns, who certainly was kept busy defensively, and you were seeing consistent contributions. Again, OG Anunoby, Jalen Brunson getting the job done. Points in the paint, it was a battle for both sides, but 16-12 in favour of the Spurs. You also saw more fast break points with the Knicks for zip. But again, just that consistent scoring, that big internal presence. Again, Victor Wembanyama, huge on that one there. And with the collapsing of the defense, it was always going to open up from three-point land. So a really nice start the first quarter from the Spurs. The question was always going to be, how would they maintain that composure? And, well, the answer in the second term was, well, whatever you can do, we can do better. The New York Knicks, 14-19 from the field, 6-9 from deep. They assisted on 9 of their 14 shots for 42 second quarter points, 42-24. It was the highest scoring Knicks quarter in the history of their team in the NBA Finals. They dominated this one here to drag the margin into their favour at the half, leading 64-57. Big second quarter to OG Anunoby and Jalen Brunson once again. Karl-Anthony Towns chipping in with 7 points this time, starting to really rev up. But the efficiency there, I mean, New York went 73.7% from the field, 66.7% from deep. On the other side of things, the Spurs took one more shot across the entire quarter. They took one less three-point shot, and it was just ridiculous to think that they were going to be able to keep up that pace and really be competitive compared to what the Knicks were doing there. They just absolutely ran them out of the gym. Big second quarter there for Castle with 11 points. But really telling signs there. Didn't get a shot up from Devin Vassell. 0 of 2 makes from Julian Champagny. 1 of 2 for De'Aaron Fox. Only the 2 points there. As I mentioned, Castle with 11 and 6 points there, going to Victor Wembanyama. But it was just dominant for New York. Really much, pretty much in control the entire way. They then led points in the paint, 16-12. Knicks led in second chance points and also led on the fast break as well. It was genuinely a New York game. The Garden was rocking at this point. And, questions really had to be asked. Had the Spurs done it again? Had they burnt themselves out? What were the Knicks going to be able to do? Could they somehow get the game back into their possession? It was a matter of seeing exactly what was going to happen. And this was a really physical game. There's no doubt about it. And I think the physicality was part of what started to wind this down in this third term. And certainly, I think, helped the Spurs. The foul count and the free throw count in the second half was pretty interesting. But it is crucial to note there in that first quarter, New York 12 of 14 from the line, Spurs 5 of 8 from the free throw line. So New York had their opportunities and certainly capitalised on them. They managed to balance out those field shooting splits as well. But they were the more efficient team at that point, and it looked like the efficiency in the hometown crowd was certainly going to get them over the line. Moving to the third term, though, and that's where the Knicks started to arrest everything. Well, not arrest everything, but the Spurs started to arrest momentum back in their favour with a really nice third term. 7 of 10 makes were assisted on. They shot 50% from the field, 50% from deep, 71.4 from the free throw line. For the Knicks, they were 47.8 from the field. They were 50% from deep and 2/3 from the free throw line. But they just weren't able to convert exactly where they thought they were going to. New York did beat them out on the boards in this quarter. The assist numbers were certainly in favour of the Spurs, and defensively, again, much of a muchness, counting stats in favour of New York. But when you're going to look at actual pressure and you're going to look at scoreboard results, you have to say that the Spurs won the third term. Stefan Castle held scoreless in the third term, but that didn't matter. 7 points from Victor Wembanyama, 9 from Julian Champagny as he lifted up, 7 as well from Dylan Harper, and things just started to go go the way of the San Antonio Spurs. For New York, they did have a spread of scoring, but it was only low scoring. Brunson 2 of 7 from the field for 5 points, 5 points to OG Anunoby. They were the only notable scorers beyond Jordan Clarkson getting 5 for himself as well. But things were, again, when you look at the fact that the Spurs were able to arrest the lead back into their favour, they led 92-91 at three-quarter time, had a really big third term, something which has cost them previously and probably would have cost them the game if they didn't lift. So it's good to see them trying to put a more consistent effort together. They haven't put 4 quarters together all series. When they start doing that, that's when we're going to really see some results there for the Spurs. Again, a 35-27 third quarter, 7 of 10 baskets assisted on, 50% shooting from the field. It was certainly in their favour. The Knicks, well, they weren't out and running as much. They did lose the fast break point battle. Second chance points did go to the Knicks, and points in the paint, again, going to the Knicks. But when you can't convert efficiently and the other side's getting it done, you do start to push it uphill a fair bit. In the last term, it was 23-20 in favour of the Spurs. They were able to compose, they were able to hold themselves, and they were able to, take control. They led the entire last quarter. The Knicks unable to arrest any form of lead in the final term. And part of that came down to some really inefficient shooting from both sides, to be fair. But it was just a conversion rate that, ultimately helped. From the free throw line, the Spurs went perfect. 6 of 6 from Wemby for 10 points in that fourth quarter. 12 from Jalen Brunson, so he was fighting back. But only 6 points from OG Anunoby, and a further 2 contributed as well from Mitchell Robinson. So really limited offensive production. And when the other side is starting to convert and hit big shots, you are in trouble. De'Aaron Fox, 6 points. Stefan Castle, 5 points. Again, 10 points from Victor Wembanyama, who has really tried to put on an offensive clinic where he can in the fourth quarter of these games. Putrid shooting from both sides. The Spurs just being a little more efficient with less looks. 6 of 21 compared to 7 of 27 shooting for the Knicks. Both sides struggling from deep. 1 of 9 versus 2 of 14. That one in favour of the Knicks. Free throws 4 of 5 to 10 of 10. There were some complaints by Mike Brown of that, but as was noted, the more aggressive team is always going to get the calls regardless of what arena they are in. Beyond that, the rest of the board was pretty consistent as far as numbers, counting stats are concerned. Defensively, on a counting stat standpoint, you would say the Spurs were far better. They had more blocks, they had more steals, and part of that comes down to, holding your opposition to under 26% from the field, let alone 30%. Just a real big quarter there for the Spurs. They did lead in points in the paint by a basket, but again, poor shooting inside the paint for both sides. it just came down to who was going to be the more composed team in the fourth quarter. And again, I do feel this is just where the Spurs have been able to show this. They've been able to show what that tempo is going to look like and what they will do from here. Second half in favour of the Spurs, 58-47 second half. Really fought that back where they needed to. And overall just ended up being the cleaner team down the stretch where it mattered to get that win. Of course, the hot shooting wasn't going to last for both sides for 4 quarters, and we saw that there in that last term. But if it's going to get physical and scrappy after 3 quarters, if you've still got the energy to manage it, there's no doubt that you will be able to get a result. And that's exactly what New York weren't able to do in this one. The Spurs, a little bit of youth on their side, you would think, in this one, but they were able to stay hard and stay fast and get through it. And that's exactly what got the result. And because of that result, they now have their first win on the board. New York still in control of the series 2-1, and they still have another home game up their sleeve. The crucial thing to factor in for both sides is this. From a San Antonio standpoint, from a positive standpoint, the most recent team to come back from 2-0 in the NBA Finals was the Milwaukee Bucks, and the key thing they had there was Giannis Antetokounmpo. They had a freak athlete, a once-in-a-generation player who was able to control the game, who was able to get it back on their terms, and was therefore able to arrest momentum and get the result. The Spurs certainly have that going in their favour right now. The one negative that they have, which also plays into New York's hand, is New York realistically only have to have one more game in their hand, and they ultimately give the Spurs a 1 in 80 chance of winning the series from there. From 3-1 or 3-0 in the NBA Finals, the team has only won once, and that was the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2016. So momentum would very much be on New York's side once again, even if they were going to San Antonio. On the other side of things, for New York, you don't want to give up the loss, because you then have to go and win on the road. You then have to return to win at home. Okay, that's one thing, but 2 of the next 3 games are on the road, and they are in favour of the team that won 60-plus games. So this series is far from over. The 2-1 lead to New York, but there are a lot of factors at play still to see how this pans out. Anyway, guys, that's been me. That has been my Game 3 review for the 2026 NBA Finals. The San Antonio Spurs winning this one 115 or 111. My player of the game, Victor Wembanyama, and from a Spurs standpoint, he would have to be the Finals MVP. I think from a New York standpoint, we're starting to really see a bit more of a balancing of that equation. Could you argue it's Jalen Brunson with his fourth quarter performances? Absolutely. But can you argue the efficiency is costing him? Well, that's a real question as well. For Karl-Anthony Towns, the defensive impact that he has to have on Victor Wembanyama and the delivery he has to provide offensively, well, you certainly think that has to have a case for him. But when you look at some of the fourth quarter performances, and particularly a lack of performance in this game, there does have to be a question mark around him. If you want to look at a guy that's bringing it on both sides of the ball for a team that is leading, then maybe OG Anunoby is the guy. It would be very much unsung, but he very well may be the guy that ticks all the boxes that you need as far as delivering on both sides of the ball, delivering when it matters, delivering in a win, delivering in a loss, and just being there for your team. You know, maybe there is a case that OG Anunoby has the Finals MVP. That's not for me to decide. That is for the voters. Anyway, guys, that's been me. That has been my Game 3 review for the 2026 NBA Finals. I'm out.